own my style. How I got this smile, conquer fear, got the crown. Can't nobody bring me down. I'm looking good, quite frank.
In today's episode of AMA Podcast with Chris and Milos, we had Arnold Women's Physique Champion 2 times and current Women's Physique Olympia Champion, Natalia Coelho. It was a breath of fresh air having somebody so driven, so young, so disciplined, with such intense work ethic. There's not much that's going to break that woman's spirits, that's for sure. But we went through her contest prep history when she decided to change from figure to women's physique, what ultimately led to that decision. We went into nutrition, her current training, and just kind of give you a little bit of idea of what she's like as a person. And I will tell you, the shoe fits, the mindset matches the accomplishments. It is definitely a must listen to. Also, please, if you have any questions, comments, please comment below and subscribe. And also make sure to check out Senapani Circles on Telegram.
All right, guys, we're back for another AMA podcast with Chris and Milos, and we have a very special guest today. I was just saying to Milos that we don't have a lot of females on podcasts to get to know about their life, their perspective, their direction, everything they have to overcome. It's always about the guys. So we're happy to announce that we got the top runner here, Natalia Coelho. Am I saying that right? How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Well, I'm doing fantastic. As I said before, I'm living my dream. This is just like such a good feeling to be in the position that I am. And I'm very happy that now you guys are starting to have females here as well, because I've been watching you for such a long time, Well, time to change it, time to bring some females on, hear from us.
Chris, awesome. You didn't say like most important thing, current Miss Women's Physique Olympia champion.
Oh, yeah. And 2 times Arnold champion.
Yeah.
Right. I was looking at your...
I'm just a Natalia's fan, and I've seen her right after Olympia at the banquet. There was a great moment for me because I'm a fan of Natalia. I personally saw you winning year before also, but every time when I raise my opinion, then people complain. I really thought that you were good enough even 2021 to win. They gave you a runner-up spot, but this year I was delighted to see that you won. Go ahead.
Same here. I've been following you for a little bit too as well. I worked with Andrew Vu in 2019. So Andrew's a friend of mine. He's awesome. He was great to work with. I know that you're in good hands with Andrew, that's for sure. But you have an extremely impressive resume starting all the way back in 2013, right? That was your first show?
Yes, that was my first show. I was a teenager. I did my very first NPC show in 2013.
It's not good to ask a woman about the age, but how old were you then?
I was about to turn 17. I was 16 years old, and I'm 26 now.
Yeah, Chris, sorry, I gotta ask her right away because that's my always biggest interest. For and don't get this in the wrong way. I try to find psychology. For men, right? For us, it's normal that when you're a teenager and you want to be muscular and strong and everything else. So for a woman to decide to go in physique and lifting weights, I wanted to find out: do you have a family that have athletic background, and you have some muscular friends that lead you into the gym and made you train?
I wish I had, but I don't have it. And it was funny because my mom is a ballerina. She's a professor. I mean, she used to be a ballet teacher. So she put me in ballet classes, and she would go, to the gym with me. She would put me in the classes, and she would go downstairs because in Brazil we have these big gyms. So the gym has like, I think 7 floors, 6 floors, and each floor would be like one different sport.
Wow.
So she put me upstairs in the ballet classes, and I would go downstairs to watch the guys and everybody training hard. And I was just like, I fell in love with the sports. And I think that's what drove me to start like training and competing, because I never had anybody in my family competing. They didn't even know about the sport. I had to educate them about it. I literally put my mom to watch the Winners movies and all this stuff so she could actually know the history of the sport. And that was my main goal. I didn't want them to just support me. I want them to learn, to understand how much that means to me. So it all started when I moved to US. I was training at the gym, and one old school bodybuilder came up to me one day, and he asked me like, "Are you gonna compete? What are you training for?" And I look at him and I'm like, "No, it's just like my time to zone out, to just like really enjoy being here." So he's like, "You know what? I've been watching you for a few months, and you're always here at the same exactly time, by yourself, training hard, like focus. I want to take you to a show." And I'm like, "What show?" I was 15 years old. I didn't know what he wanted to do. I was kind of afraid, concerned about his intentions. But anyway, so he took me to the Europa Games here in Orlando. He took me backstage. He showed me the area, and he's like, "You see that? One day you're gonna be on that stage." And I look at him like, I don't know. So he kept taking me to a lot of shows and teaching me about the NPC and the IFBB. He gave me like Jay Cutler's DVDs. He's like, watch and study that. And then he told me about Dennis James and Dorian Yates and all. Like he literally showed me the path to learn about the sport, and that's how I got into it. Like just learning about it, and I got so passionate, so passionate. That's why every time I watch like Milos talking, I can feel the energy and the passion he has, and I'm like, that's me. Like I just love from my heart.
Yeah, love it. But you competed first as a figure, right?
Yes, I started competing as a figure, and I did two Olympias as a figure competitor. In 2017, I switched to women's physique.
So that's a decision. I mean, you were not placing well as a figure, or somebody told you that you could possibly fare much better in a woman's physique.
So I was winning all these shows. I think I only placed second twice, and I did a lot of shows. I've done so far 36 shows. But when I was competing figure, I won, I would say like 7 shows. I got qualified for the Olympia. And then the thing is like I was placing first or second, and I would get to the Olympia and I would place last. And I'm
Oh,
like, that's right here. So it happened in the first year. I got my qualification and I got to the Olympia and I placed 15th. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, how can I win so many shows, get my qualification, all of them, and at the Olympia, not even like first call outs, they put me in the last. So I talked to Bob Chick, I talked to Sandy, Steve, all of them, and they're like, Natalia, the only reason why you're not in the first call out is because you're too hard. We can see striations and feathers on your quads and your glutes, and that doesn't fit the criteria for figure. So you have two options. Either you come softer and you stay in figure, or you keep the same conditioning but step up to women's physique. And at the time, I had the misconception that I needed to be like too big and put too much muscle and lose my femininity. So I didn't want to go. So I'm like, I'm going to still stay in figure, try one more year, maybe become softer. And then I got to the Olympia the next year. I mean, I did 4 shows, I believe 4 or 5 shows, and I won 4 of them. So I got to the Olympia.
being softer or being still just as hard?
I would say I was about the same conditioning, but I was just a teenager, so I was adding muscle easier because when you're a teenager, like you're eating, training, sleeping, recovering. So my body was just changing a lot. So I'm like, you know what? Let me see what happens in 1 year if I do exactly the same thing that I've been doing. And I was winning the shows. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm in the right track. And when I got to the Olympia, I placed 16th. And I
Again,
mean, I was super happy, both Olympias, because I knew what the winners did for the Olympia. I mean, what it meant to me to be on that stage. It didn't matter what placement I was just happy to be part of it. But I was still like, how am I not placing? So I went to talk to the judges again, and Sandy called me, and she's like, Natalia, listen, I'm going to be very honest with you. I told you last year, and I'm going to make my point again. If I can see striations and feathers on your quads, I'm not gonna be able to. You're not gonna place well. That's pretty much what she said. And I'm like, well, but I. She's like, I know some things are genetics, but others you can fix. And I was thinking to myself, I don't want to go to the gym with the mindset of I cannot give my 100%. I'm not gonna diet 80%. I'm not gonna do my cardio saying like, oh, I cannot go too hard. That's not me. Everything I do, I want to be the best. I want to give it 200%. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a show right after the Olympia. I'm gonna do a women's physique show and bring the same exact package, the same exact physique, and just see how it goes on a women's physique pro, stage. And I won the show. Then I went to the Arnold
What year
Classic.
was that? What year?
2017.
17.
17, yeah.
And then
I got all your placings right here. I'm following your timeline.
so if you see that in 2018, I did the Arnold Classic and I placed second. And I knew that was the second most prestigious show in the world. And I'm like, okay, so if in women's physique I place second at the Arnold, it means I'm in the right track. So I just stayed in women's physique, and at my first women's physique pro Olympia, I placed second to Shanique Grant. So I was just like super excited to continue, improving, because I knew I was close to that first place, but I was the runner up for many years up to this year.
That's the first time I've seen you. Were you on that show with your mom?
Yes, my mom goes to all the shows.
Because so 2018, right away you play second, first try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
before we get too far ahead, I want to go back. All right.
Okay.
So I remember I'm reading about you. You moved back to the States when you were 15, right? And you started getting into the gym. That individual old school bodybuilder started showing you around. And from 15 years old, then you went right to your first show at 16 years old within a year of training in 2013. Is that correct?
Well, I was already training since I was 12, but it was nothing structure. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just going to the gym. But at 15, I knew exactly. I literally bought like all the books, anatomy, physiology. I started going to school for that. And I knew everything about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was reading the Withers training style. So at 15, I was 100% in. But I already had some like background in training, like weight training. And I used to play soccer and do Muay Thai in Brazil.
Muay Thai, yeah.
I love that. I'm into boxing now, so I totally understand. My sparring partner does Muay Thai, and he will spar me Muay Thai style, but no kicks, and I'll box him with regular boxing style. So I have a lot of respect for that. Milos, her shows, like, you remember we talked about how a lot of people don't compete a lot, right? Yeah. I mean, looking at her, her first show was 2013, and then it looks like you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows the second year competing.
Yes.
Yeah. And she placed first, third, first in teams, fourth in open, killing it. And then 2014, first again, nationally qualified. 2015 North Americans, fifth, correct? And then 2015 at nationals, first. You know what's really funny? My first time competing at North Americans, I placed fifth. And then I did nationals 12 weeks later, and I got first in my class. It's funny, we placed the same in the same classes. But that's remarkable. Remarkable.
Well, you see, I think when you're an athlete, and just, I don't know details about you, Natalia, exactly, but the way you look, it seems to me that you're always in shape, that you're lean year round. I can just say, I can see the athlete in you. Now, when you say they told you you would be penalized for striations, right? What is for you to do, or to purposely get fat, like to direct the body fat right there? It's impossible, even if you try to stop completely training. I mean, yeah, I think there was a very good decision and advice that they told you, okay, compete here where we can appreciate what you're bringing instead of penalizing you for this outstanding condition.
Yes.
Yeah, it's made for you, this class. Yes.
And that, they're like, listen, you have a misconception about what we want for women's physique. Right now, we are looking for that like standard, and you can be the person. And I'm like, okay, so that sounds interesting, let's see how it goes. And that was my main goal. I just wanted to change the category and the way that people look at women's physique. Because initially, I think that's why they started like kind of pushing women's bodybuilding and women's physique away, because they're getting too much and losing what they want. They still want feminine class, like a nice look.
Yeah.
So now we're bringing that back. Drea, she looks amazing. She's the female bodybuilder. And in women's physique, I think like everything is going in the right direction with the sport.
Yeah, for sure. Especially you winning, right? That's I loved it. I mean, of course, all respect to Sarah and her wins before. I just thought myself, even last year, you were a more complete package. You know, when you look at the whole thing, it's not just like a lower body competition. It's the whole thing. If I was a judge, I would already saw that. But 2022, you know, finally you fulfill your dream, and the way I believe you'll probably defend it 10 times.
In God's feeling, God's plan, I believe everything happens at the right time. Even when I was placing last, I think a lot of people, if I could tell, like, giving advice to all the girls competing right now, I would just tell them, like, please study the sport. Please know the history of the sport. Because every time that I step on that stage, I remember when I was doing my first show in 2013, I was in the lineup and I was talking to the girls in front of me. They are like 40, 30 years old, much older than I was at the time. And I was talking about the Wieters. And they look at me, who? I'm like, you don't know who Joe Weider is? Ben Weider? They're like, no. And I'm like, so what are you doing here? Like, please, like, this is what the sport's about. But I get it that some people just do as a hobby. But I am so passionate that I got angry. I was like,
Okay.
insulted that she didn't know who they are. Like, how come you prep for 16 weeks or whatever it is? You're about to step on stage and you don't know who created this whole thing for us. So anyway, but it's just crazy, to think back when I was a teenager in the US and to be able to be holding this title today.
But did
It's
you have okay, because you started with the figure and then you switch here, did you have a role model or physique, any female in a figure or bodybuilder that you like, that you wanted to emulate? When you started, when you were a teenager, was it a lady that you really liked their physique?
it's funny, like when I started, there was not many women in the sport. We only had like Dana Lynn Bailey and Juliana in my category who won the Olympia. And I mean, they were physique, not figure. But I was just looking at the female bodybuilders from back then: Corey Everson, Rachel, Linda Murray. Oh my gosh, I was fascinated by her. But they didn't have like a lot of muscle. Back then, like the criteria changed a lot. But when I was training, I was just inspired by the male bodybuilders. I had this picture on my wall of Dorian Yates, like he was facing back, and you could see literally all the details of his back. I would be like sitting down and watching that for hours. I was just like fascinated, by like we literally have the power to change our bodies. Like it's in our hands just by training and eating. Look at that. Look what we can build. So I was like watching all these videos, training videos from you guys, because
I
I
think
guys
your back is like really where it gets you a big time edge in a contest. So obviously, in order to build back, you have to connect with the back. Now, when you're so to feel the muscle, feel the exercises. You have a bachelor's degree in exercise science.
Yep.
Okay, so now, because it's interesting even for me to hear, did you right away when you start training feel your back in every exercise, or this develop throughout the years? Because I'm first one to confess, when I started, you do all the exercises, right? All the rows and pull downs and pullovers, deadlifts, so the classic 4 movements: pulls, rows, deadlift. But if I'm 100% honest, I probably use everything else but back. So
Same here in the beginning. Same here.
yeah. Did you connect, because your back is exceptional? And now that you say Dorian Yates picture, did you analyze it? Did you already connect right away? And which exercise are your favorites?
I was lucky enough to study what you guys were doing before I start training. I mean, not start training, but before I start competing. So like when I started training to compete, this guy that I told you about, the old school bodybuilder, he was literally teaching me everything. He would like touch my back and say, "Do you feel it here?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "So you're not doing shit." I'm like, "Okay." I'm gonna touch the part of your back that you're supposed to feel, and I want you to have the mind muscle connection. I want you to go slow. Don't just move the weight, feel the weight. So he started like teaching me these things, and I'm like, "But why are you touching my lats?" And he's like, "Because when I touch here, your brain is gonna send signals to your receptors that they're supposed to be engaged." And he started like teaching me so many things that you guys also apply to your training. I see how you guys train. I'm always watching and learning. I'm like a sponge. I try to absorb as much information as I can to be a better athlete and a better ambassador as well. So I started training already knowing the concepts and then already knowing what I was supposed to be feeling. And that helped me a lot. But I don't do a lot of rows like barbell rows. I do more of the machines and dumbbells. I just like feel a better connection. And I think when it comes like to training, when it comes down to training, it depends. Like everybody's different. You know, some people are gonna feel more with certain exercises, and try to stick with what I can feel the best connection.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of getting to know how your body responds.
Milos, hold on. So I have a couple things I want to touch on with that. One, you have to be incredibly intelligent and observant to be able to understand that concept. I mean, I picked up books. I did the same thing as you did as far as looking at the history and everything. But as far as that mind muscle connection, that was gone. And I remember doing my first show, not doing well. My second show, doing really well. My third show, doing okay. And I remember the judge's feedback. He said to me, he goes, "Chris, you look like a different bodybuilder when you turn from the back." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "In other words, it looks like it's not you, as in it looks like you don't train your back." And I said to the judge, kind of like an ignorant kid, I'm like, "Well, that's weird because I can deadlift a ton of weight. I can dumbbell row a ton of weight." And then from that point forward, I did exactly what you just did. I stopped doing barbell rows. I stopped deadlifting and started being like, I have to figure out how I can connect with my back more with machines and cables, and then maybe go back to the other movements and applying that same principle. But that's something that I think a lot of people today struggle with more than anything, at all levels. Even bodybuilders who are well seasoned 10 years into the sport are just still pushing the weight with their ego and not feeling the muscle, not applying it. Milos and I had this conversation many times about like, you moving weight? Are you moving weight with maximizing leverage points, or are you maximizing mechanical tension by applying that weight to the muscle and then feeling it where you're trying to target? Another thing that you said, which I thought was very interesting, is your history of the sport. Milos and also I had this conversation, how few people today know who anybody is. At my local gym, I was referencing David Henry, Milos, and they had no idea what I was talking about. I was referencing some top bodybuilders and they had no idea who I was talking about. It's weird how people do get into the industry and the sport for, a hobby, that's fine, but for specific reasons, for maybe validity and recognition on Instagram, not necessarily like loving the sport, everything about it, what it has to offer, everything as a whole, who people are, and learning in and out. But your approach, Natalia, of just how perceptive you are, like a sponge absorbing everything from the beginning, probably has a lot to do with how well and how fast you progressed. I mean, from your first show to you turning pro was what, 2 years, right? 2 years?
19 when I go at nationals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's impressive.
But it's interesting you talk about the history, and Natalia mentioned Rachel, right? Many people who know which Rachel, right? Rachel McLeish, right? And I'm sure that you follow Gladys Portuguese back in the day, right? She didn't really did any major results, but she was a role model. I don't know if you remember Lisa Loria, back in the time, and there was like so many. But like you said, when Corey Everson took over, I think Corey Everson would be women's physique, right? It would be at that level. I think with Landa, and I love Landa. I mean, really, absolutely love Landa. That's beautiful shape. She went a little bit. Probably she would be penalized for too much size, maybe. So what now? You are perfect. You're champion. What the judges are telling you, keep exactly the same because you won, or they still want some improvements? And if so, which?
I totally agree about Landa. By the way, I was just in Arizona. We filmed together, Landa Murray and me. So that's gonna be super cool. Anyway, so the judges say the first thing I did after the show was to literally, I was gonna wait until the end of the show to talk to the judges, but the show went too late and I want to be respectful to their time, so I just emailed them. But literally the next day, next morning, I mail everybody. I send messages and I'm like, I want to know what I can, because now, from now until next Olympia, like it's game on. Like we cannot take the foot out of the gas pedal, because I know people are coming super hungry, but so am I, especially now. I have to defend this title. So I want to know what they think, what I need to do in order to continue, holding this title. And honestly, Sandy, Steve, Tyler, Tarek, all of them said the package was really good. They really liked the package that I brought to New York Pro. And they said if I brought the same package to the Olympia, I would be, in a very good position to win the show. So I continued doing what I was doing for the New York Pro, and they said I look even better than the New York Pro, and I surprised them. So I'm like, okay, that's good. But for next year, I mean this year actually, they said I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, because all the improvements and everything that they want to see, they are seeing. So they didn't tell me to not, like, oh, you need this specific thing to change. They said just continue doing what you're doing. I do know that my middle back can be a little bit thicker, and that's what Sandy wants to see. But she said, don't add any more like width. Don't try to get any bigger. Just details, small refinements on your physique. It's what we need. So I'm happy with the feedback, because looks like they are happy with what they see.
They don't want you any bigger anywhere. They don't want to say, okay, maybe a little bit more quads or hamstring or anything. They just say keep it as it is, right?
Yes,
Because
but one
you
thing
see,
that
hmm?
very, like, I see a lot of people when they get like a judge's feedback and they say, oh, you need to get your quads bigger. The thing is, they only focus on quads, then their upper body is not symmetrical anymore. And then come up to a show and they place even lower. They're like, well, my quads are bigger. I'm like, yeah, but you threw off the whole symmetry and proportions from your upper body to your lower body. So you got to keep in mind when you're trying to, adjust something, don't just neglect the other body parts, because that's going to, kind of hurt you in the future in the next show.
Well, you're the champ. Your physique is number one in the world, so there's, I guess, nothing that you need to change. I was just curious, because that's also sometimes hard. I just talked to Jay Cutler, by the way, before, and he said hello. He said, yeah, but he was a four-time champion, right? And it's one thing winning and completely different defending the title. You know how in every sport you're not a champ until you defend it, which I disagree with. But you also have to be within parameters. You don't want to. They tell you don't get any bigger. I'm curious. I'm not your coach. So, what kind of calories, macronutrients we're talking about regularly, like protein, carbs, fat? I'm just curious to get you to look like, and I believe you look like this year around. So, what is your caloric intake and macros?
So for this show, it was very easy for me to keep the conditioning while eating a lot, because I did 5 shows. So I was just coming out of shows. So my metabolism was crazy. So I could just eat. I didn't do cardio this last prep. So it was super, super smooth, super, my body just felt like fresh and healthy and good. And I think that's key. You're supposed to go on stage feeling good. You're supposed to go there and have fun. And there are so many people who go there, they are sick, they're not feeling well, whatever, they don't perform well. And when you're on stage, people can feel your energy. They know when you're happy. They know when you have passion for the sport. It's just like the same way that I feel when I'm on stage and I look at all the first row and I see all the old school bodybuilders sitting down, the judges, the fans. They are supposed to feel the same energy and love from me on stage. Anyway, but my caloric intake, I was doing 2 high days and 2 low days. And on my high days, I had 500 grams of carbs, and my low
Wow.
days, which is not really low, you
Sorry,
know.
low days, how much?
I did 2 days 500 carbs and 2 days 300, and I would go to.
That's a low, you know. I can't give to some guys that much. You know what I mean? That's
Mil-
good.
Milos,
And zero cardio.
You know what is the difference? I am like, after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I specialize in gut health. That is my big thing. I am very, very into what, like, everything in the inside reflects in the outside. So even though I say 500 grams of carbs, everything is clean, and I eat clean all year round. I don't even put like any sauce, condiments, anything on my food. So you cannot, not you, but like people cannot compare how I eat and try to eat the same macros because it's completely different. I am very, very precise about everything. I literally have a little scoop, even my salt. I use the same little scoop in every meal. Like I distribute exactly the same thing. I'm just like too much. I'm like OCD. But
That's
sometimes,
supposed to be.
you're supposed to be 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
You can guess, or you can, really do what you know. So you're not guessing. You're, oh yeah, let's just throw in. So what was your protein intake? Because carbs are already 500, that's 2,000 calories. How about protein?
I do 30 grams of protein per meal,
You
all
five,
meals.
six,
So
six
I
meals?
6 times a day, 30
Yeah.
grams of protein per meal.
Are you breaking up, Chris? Do you hear it or no? Or it's
No, yeah, it's skipped out. She's there with 30 grams of protein 6 times a day, and that's from complete sources, correct?
Yes.
and fats, just in
I was having fats just from the protein. So from the egg, red meat, I wouldn't add any extra fats.
hidden fats. Yeah, wow, that's good. That's old school. That's old fashioned. I mean, this is exactly what I was doing. But it's how much I don't add fats. Why would I add fats when hidden fats in my proteins? And I would have all the eggs and steak and salmon and all that stuff. Why the hell would I add it? I was always a carb guy. But you didn't do any cardio, and you get in this kind of shape.
I know that very well because I study you like from many years ago, so I know exactly how you diet. But yeah, so I was doing cardio for the other shows prior to this one. So I got to the condition that I needed. And in my little off season, like I had 5 months, 6 months actually, from my last show that I did in Brazil until the Olympia. And I just maintained. I was like doing the same exactly like step counts per day, just like going around the neighborhood or whatever it was. I was making sure I was not doing anything extra or less. And I continued doing that. So just by adjusting my food. So closer to the Olympia, I did like 3 low days of 300 and 1 high day of 500 or things like that. But my menu never changed. I was always in the same exactly food source.
That's super impressive. You see, now that you mentioned, I don't know if you've seen the last podcast with Jake Cutler, we talk about cardio. And I say, you do cardio if you need to burn body fat. If you have no body fat, why the hell would you do cardio? I'm not talking about cardiovascular benefits and all that stuff. I mean, you're a bodybuilder. You're going to be training. So why would you do cardio? Well, today we had this cardio on fastest state or not fastest state on a circle, right? But yeah, I'm all John Meadows also many times didn't do any cardio. You do cardio if you need to lose body fat, otherwise none. But 30 grams times 6, it's like 180, almost 200 grams of protein. Yeah, that's a beautiful caloric and nutritional intake. And you don't suffer. Like I said, you have fun all the way through. 3 days low, 1 high, 3 days low. So did you have any like adjustments peaking for the show? Like last week, you did a little different, or you still went 3 days low and then day before you did high?
The week before the show, like what they call the peak week, whatever they want to call it, I did 4 low days, and then for the last 2 days,
2 days or 500.
500.
Stick with the exact same food. Okay, because we are all coaches. I want to know because your conditioning was very, very good. How about that salt that you measured? Did you went all the way through to the last day, or you reduced it? And how about your water?
I didn't change my minerals, my salts, my potassium, anything. Continued doing exactly what I was doing because it was working. And there is no, like, I know exactly how my body's going to respond if I have this amount of sodium and I'm looking good. Why am I going to change that? I don't see a point. Anyway, my water, I did increase my water in the beginning of the week. So I was drinking 2 gallons throughout the whole prep, and I went up to 3 gallons for the 4 days. And then I went down to 1.5. And that was the least amount of water I had. One day before the show, I had 1.5. The day of the show, I had 1 gallon of water.
Hold on a second, 1 second. So you did the 3 gallons, increase from 2 to 3, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then did you reduce Thursday, Friday, or just one day?
1.5 and then 1, right? Or one
Yeah.
and a half and then 1. So you drank a gallon the day of the show.
A day of the show. I did 1 liter before midday, and then the rest of the water throughout the day with my meals to help with the digestion, absorption of the nutrients and all that stuff. Because I noticed, like, when I don't drink much water, my digestion doesn't work well. So you loading issues or whatever. So I'm like, well, why am I gonna just not feel good because of the water? If I'm like, my skin's super thin, there's no point on not drinking water. So I tried that on my, I think 3 shows ago, and it worked. And then I tried again, and it worked. The last show worked, and I'm like, I'm gonna continue doing that for the Olympia because it's working. And I was feeling good. I didn't feel dehydrated, anything like that. I was feeling super energetic. I was just like having a good time.
Yeah,
It's funny, Milos. It's funny how like a lot of people do fall into that way of thinking where they have to cut water, right? It's like if you're 7 days out and you're dry as a bone, drinking 3 gallons of water, going to like restriction of water and then a diuretic, you're going to look terrible. And the same thing happens to me. If I cut water out, I lose my hardness. My hardness just disappears. Like the muscles don't have that same look. So I found that out the hard way a couple of times, but I've always had to try to make weight for 212. And then all of a sudden I drink 2 liters of water and I'm like, everything comes back alive and I look in better condition than I was before. One thing we did skip over that I want to mention, you mentioned step count. And I know Andrew is all about kind of maintaining that NEAT during the day. NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis for those who are listening. Some people kind of overlook that if they have a sedentary job or they're driving a truck all day long. So your step count was around what per day on average in prep?
So I try not to like focus on that. He never told me like you have to walk 7,000 steps or whatever. He never told me. However, my days are exactly the same every single day. So even when I go to the gym, I park in the same parking spot so I can walk this distance, So like when I go to the supermarket, I go to the exactly same aisles. Like I am OCD to this point, I am very precise in everything I do when it comes to prep. Because literally, if I'm weighing like my oatmeal and there's 1 extra gram, I take one out because I need to be perfect. I know that that's not gonna like break my prep if I have 1 extra gram of oatmeal. But if you add up 1 gram 6 times a day, 30 days a month, it adds up. That's how I am. Anyway, so
I commend you for it. Really, like Dennis James was like that, right? He would not miss by 1 gram left or right. And then if it's time, it has to be 7 a.m. It's like the German discipline. So you said OCD, but it's not that's precision, commitment, and discipline. I commend you for it. Yeah. Wow.
I just love like sharing these things with you guys because you actually understand and you respect, commend me for that. Because to be honest, I was going to high school here doing this crazy stuff, and out of class many times because I was eating. And I'm like, I'm just eating. Like, why I cannot eat in class? And my professors are like, well, you can eat cookies, you can eat whatever, candy bar, but you cannot have a meal. And I'm like, there's the other way around. I'm eating healthy, and they're telling me that I can eat cookies. So I got like, I remember I had like one professor. She used to tell me I cannot eat, and I always sit in the very first seat because I want to be close to the professor. I want to pay attention. I want to be the perfect student. And in her class, I would sit all the way back so I could eat. And she knew that I was gonna eat because I grabbed my stuff and I went to the back. She gave me the attention because I was eating the class. And I'm like, why? I'm just trying to, be a good athlete and still be a good student. So I have a lot of hard times. My mom in the beginning, she didn't understand. She thought I was, getting sick. These people who have like, um, I don't know, like any food disorders or whatever. She thought I was like that because I was measuring my food and I didn't want to put any like extra oils or whatever. So I had to take my time to explain to her, to teach her, to educate her until she became my, best supporter, best fan, and all that stuff. But in the beginning, it was very hard, to see a teenager trying to do something completely different. She told me once I was gonna train in the morning the next day. It was like a Friday night, and she said, "Natalia, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just studying." So she went to my room. She saw this banner, this big picture of Dorian Yates on my wall, and I was making a lot of notes, like writing down workouts and all this stuff. She's like, "Natalia, you're getting sick. Why are you doing that? Like, what's your goal?" And I'm like, "Mom, I just love that." And she's like, "How can you love like?" I don't understand. And I'm like, it's okay, you don't have to understand. One day you will. So she said, no, you're gonna go out tonight. Call your friends, go somewhere. And I'm like, I can't. And she's like, why not? I'm like, because I have to sleep 8 hours and I have to train in the morning. So she would not understand. She put me outside. She's like, come back after midnight.
Oh
She's like,
man.
you're grounded. Go out.
It's so funny is like most parents are probably like today are like, oh my God, I wish my kid would stop going out drinking and partying and they would partake in something that's more regimented and get sleep and eat healthier. And here you are falling to the other extreme. Do you think that like, looking back at your whole history of getting involved and competing, do you think that was the biggest obstacle was like your family, friends in school of like not accepting like this lifestyle for you or thinking that something was wrong with you, thinking of eating disorder or why do you want to look like that? I'm assuming you got a lot of negativity. I mean, even from a bodybuilder, wanting to be a bodybuilder when I was young, I got a tremendous amount of negativity from my friends making fun of me, telling me it's gay. What are you doing on stage with trunks? What are you going to go oil up with a bunch of men? Like I used to get made fun of all the time. Or they would mess with my food and be like, oh, are you gonna lose muscle if I take a piece of protein? So I remember having that. And I would assume that you probably had it much worse.
I think with females it's much worse because are you trying to become a man? Like, why do you want muscles? Like
Yeah.
this type. But to be honest, I think this was the biggest blessing I ever had to go through what I went through because it made me so much stronger. I had to literally fight for my dreams and to show everybody what I really want to do. And it was just like something, sometimes you have to go to the storm to be able to, see the sun again. So I tell everybody every time, like, for example, when you're in the plane and you're going to the turbulence, what do you think the pilot does? Is he gonna stop and go down? No, he keeps going up until everything is, peaceful again. So I always see life like that. If things are not going well, it's just a phase. Very soon it's temporary. Very soon things are gonna be just fine. So when I was going through that, I already had this mindset of, okay, they are just not in the same level as I am. They don't understand. But whenever I get the title that I want, whenever I am able to show them who I am, they're gonna understand. They're gonna respect me. It's just a matter of time. And that's what happened. Like nowadays, the same people who used to make fun of me, they are like my fans. Literally, they message me. They send me all these apologies for whatever they've done in the past, and I'm like, yes, it's okay. Like I forgive you. I don't have any hard feelings. I know you're young and you didn't know what I was trying to achieve. And I think that's what life is about. Not just like I could easily just say no, don't talk to me anymore. You gave me a hard time. But no, life is too short. We got to do what we love, forgive people, and keep going.
It's very
Yeah.
admirable that you were able to push through all of that being a female, because I do feel like a lot of females are influenced. And I think that in the wrong way. They're pulled away from their dream. So it's a breath of fresh air and extremely admirable that you were still able to keep pushing through that. And just giving and seeing your character throughout this, it looks like your spirit is definitely not easily broken.
Oh, and I think, and that's what bodybuilding did to me, because I learned how to have like this thing around me that nothing can touch me. It's just like a protection shield that I put around me. So everything that comes to me doesn't affect me. It goes to my shield and goes away. Because you got to be able to do that, and once you learn how to do it, you can apply to that in every aspect of your life. Even when you have your relationships or whatever it is, you know how to control your thoughts. And I tell this to everybody, like, your thoughts are the most powerful thing you have, your brain. And you know what's the best part of it is that you have control over them. You make your thoughts and you have control. It's like a computer. You can program your brain. If you're hungry in the prep, you can talk to yourself that you're not hungry. You can talk to yourself why you're doing that. Or you can just give up and have a craving or whatever. I never cheated my diet in like 11 years of competing. Never, ever. And I will never do it because I know that every single thing that I do is going to reflect when I step on stage. Even if people don't realize, don't notice, they're like, oh, she's in shape. I'm like, no, I know inside myself if I gave my 100% or not. And I think that's the type of mindset all the athletes should have. But a lot of them don't.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, psychology over physiology. This is exactly what I say. If you think, yeah, you can or you can't, you're always right. But now, speaking of a diet, and Chris, you were saying, I'm going to turn this a little bit around. So Natalia, by eating no fat, high protein and a good amount of carbs, right? I can imagine, and 1 gram, and precisely, perfectly, if she would have a bite more, a little bit more fat, probably her psychology would say, "Oh my God, this is not going to be good. I'm going to store it as a fat." I can just imagine because I know a lot of people like this that they already, oh, if I look at this food, I'm going to get fat. You're directing your mind that you're going to get fat. Or if I eat, I feel guilty, right? Oh, this is going to go straight there. You're directing it. Or you have a people, you say, oh, I have fast metabolism. I can just burn this as a fuel. There are two different things. But for me, when I was in your shoes, fat was fat. So I could not convince myself to have a fatty meat because I would visualize that fat. I was wrong, of course, but I could not to this day. Fat doesn't sound good to me in any shape or form except milk fat. I like milk fat, because cream cheeses and all this cheesecakes and stuff like that. But I would literally see when I see the lean meat, I would see that meat and protein and amino acids being integrated in the muscle. I kind of directed. I could literally, when I have my meal and then later on I train, I would visualize, oh, those aminos are going right there. But if I would have a fat that I didn't supposed to have, it would be that guilt, like, oh shit, this is going straight into my love handles. You know what I mean?
I never really had like the guilt feeling. That wasn't like the reason why I wouldn't eat because the first thing I started doing was to start nutrition. That was the very first step that I did when I was 15. I bought all these nutrition books and started understanding what happens inside the body. And then I got my nutrition degree. I was going to do for RD like Chris, but I didn't go because I did pre-med in school. And I got very upset with a few things that I saw in the medical industry. So I didn't want to continue doing that. And Chris probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I started having more of a like natural approach, more like a naturopathic ways and holistic way of, eating. So that was my main goal. So I got the diploma in gut health because everything was natural. Everything was literally like Chinese medicine. That's what I want to learn. I want to know the like how can I use the herbs to change my physique? Natural stuff to still be healthy, but achieve the look that I want. And that's like something that I'm very big about. Anyway, I'm saying that because when you said about fat going to become like fat tissue on you, I already had the knowledge that that's not how it works. So I knew that like my hormone functions and a lot of things, I needed the fat. But at the same time, I'm not gonna have like these oily, like fast food, junky, fat that's not gonna help me in any means. So that was just something that I was always aware, and I had the knowledge of like I know which type of fats to eat.
Absolutely. But maybe I didn't express myself exactly. I knew I had a knowledge of also what's going to happen with amino acids and glucose and triglycerides. I knew that, but still, there's a part of you, I shouldn't be eating this. And as soon as I shouldn't be eating this, I made it worse and probably store it right there what I don't supposed to. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But you said you don't ever cheat. Chris, did you ever cheat? Like, I had like a couple of days here and there.
Well, I mean, Milos, I started competing in 2005, right? And like back then, their cheat meals or refeed days weren't a common thing. So like I work with Fakhri Mubarak, my first few shows, and like we went 16 weeks without one cheat meal or without one refeed or anything. It was just, this is the calories, this is the cardio, this is the training. I never did. The worst thing I ever did was eat an extra scoop of Fiberlize. That's about it.
But when I say cheating, I didn't cheat by eating a junk food. I cheat by eating more carbs than I supposed to. This kind of thing. For me, it was never. There's no sense for me to eat the cheat meal and to crave, because if I crave it today, I'm going to crave it tomorrow also. If I let myself today, I'm going to want it again. So I just excluded it. I never had it. So my cheat meals from 87 to 2003 were not. I'm lying, okay? For a birthday, sometimes you have something. But even when I think back, I didn't really enjoy it. I would be like social gathering and it's my birthday, everybody's eating a cake. Okay, let me have it. But it was like one of those like, oh shit, the guilt, I shouldn't be eating this cake. But there was many moments, okay, in prep that I planned 300 or 500 like you did, right? But this 300 that day seemed like it's like way too little. And I'm like, oh my God. But then it's like that fight. Should I listen to my body or no, should I stick with my low days? So throughout the years, I did realize, you have a little bit of freedom. And when you sense that, obviously body is telling you you need it because you're so consistent. You say you never cheat, precisely at every meal. But if that's changed and after the third day of lows, you feel too depleted, too weak, it's always progressive. I learned those things at the European Grand Prix tours because initially we went like 6 different shows in 6 different countries on 6 weekends. And when you're trying, I shouldn't be, but I need it. So I had it. And then, I actually look better.
But Milos, the difference though, like you know this, when you're prepping yourself, you have that ability to be like, my performance is suffering. I'm definitely flattening out. These low days are too low. Where obviously when you're coaching somebody and when you're coaching with Vu, the more consistent you are. And then when you send pictures and your biofeedback markers, he can read it accurately to make the change moving forward versus, the same thing. Because it is, some people convince themselves, wait a minute, I need more carbohydrates when they don't. Not many people, I believe, have the intuition to really decipher between I need and I want, because that want can easily convince the need. You know what I mean?
I think the opposite. Like when I send him pictures, I'm always like, should I be eating that much? Like I never, not that I like to suffer, but I know that when I'm suffering, I'm getting better. So I'm like, I'm not suffering yet. He's like, you don't have to suffer if you're looking good. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, that's true. Sometimes we need to step back and say it's not always about, like killing yourself and bringing, if things are working, there's no reason to push harder or go, crazy. But
Natalia, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I know, like, I've been seeing how you guys used to do like so many shows back to back in different countries. How do you keep the consistency, or how do you keep your meals? Because you cannot like freeze your meals or have your meals ready. You didn't have like meal companies back then. How did you use?
I mean, I can tell you this. Everywhere in the world, you can find the eggs, right? So my first meal would always be eggs. You can find them even in every hotel. But when I was traveling, I had those. It's not the best thing, but chicken in cans, right? Canned chicken, canned tuna, right? So I would have my proteins just in case. But every time when you travel and you have a possibility to get actual, grilled chicken or boiled or whatever, I would prefer this, but always had a backup plan. So you have, you know how that is. You have your clean proteins, and then carbs are very easy to find. You can get rice anywhere. You can get potato and stuff like that. So it wasn't really much, but back in '93, I was with the Matrix, and really, this is what I had on the European Grand Prix Tour. So everybody was looking at like Camille Lavroni, Porter Coachella, whoever was there. Like they saw me actually have like 3 or 4 a day, and I don't supposed to be, drinking that, but I was actually getting better. And by the end of the tour, I even beat Kevin once. I have to just slip that over, and say it. But for me, there's no way on earth I'm going to find excuse not to have what I'm supposed to have. So yeah, I have on my backup plan. I have my proteins. I can find the carbs very easily. And then usually how your day start. Okay, I'm going to have my 5 or 6 meals, and I'm not going to have a chance to cook later. You prepare it in advance. It was no this food prep like nowadays. That was 1990s, So you have to rely completely on yourself. But this is what I think also why I got the edge. Those guys, sometimes we travel and there's nothing to eat, and then you go to some kind of restaurants. They had to take whatever is served, and that what is served was processed food and too much commitments, and so this is how I gain the edge.
Yeah, I mean, makes perfect sense. They're eating that, and you're being the different one. So
There's no excuse. There are no excuses, no compromises. You're a pro bodybuilder, and I have this. People come to the show and they don't prepare the food, and then like, okay, coach, I don't have it. I mean, this just drives me nuts. So, what do you mean? Especially at that time when everything's supposed to be timed, right? And then you're counting on, and they may be depleted, and now they can go catabolic, and then when you go catabolic here, they need so much more to get out of it. You don't have a meals, and then, I just have something as a substitute. No, that's not correct substitute.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Natalia, before we let you go, I do want to touch on training. I read a little bit about your training, which I'm not sure if it's changed since then. You train generally 4 days per week with weights. You're in the 8 to 10 rep range. You favor volume, drop sets, and intensifiers over the heavy weight because of better mind muscle connection and less kind of grinding on your joints. Is that correct still?
yes. Well, about the non-training days, I literally listen to my body. I don't like to say only 4 days or 5 days or 3 days. I try to take 2 days off, and I don't like to do consecutive days. So usually I train like 3 days, take 1 day off, 3 days, take 1 day off. Sometimes if it's like leg followed by back, I take a day off before the third day. So I just listen to my body, because if I'm recovering well, if I'm sleeping well, training well, and eating well, and I feel good to train, why am I gonna take the day off? If my body's ready to go, I'm gonna go. And the same thing the other way. Like, it's not really an excuse to not train. Like, people, whoever's listening and watching this, if you wake up and you don't feel like training, it's different than you wake up and you're tired and you're still recovering from a training session. So it's not waking up and saying, "Oh, I don't want to do a leg day today." I don't have that. It's not about wanting. It is something in me. I will do it. But if I wake up and I'm still sore and I feel like my training is not going to be as good as it could be if I wait another 24 hours, I will wait and do like a kilo workout in the next day. So I stay within the 8 to 12 reps range. And that's because that's where I feel the most. Sometimes if I feel like I can go more, I will go more. I'm not going to be like 12. Okay, stop. And I love to do drop sets. I just use like different philosophies of training. I don't stick to just one, like, oh, I'm just gonna do volume. No, if you can do some drop sets here or superset there, I play with that, with the variables, and I try to just like not let my body get used to one style of training. And that's what is key, because I like when you do volume, if you need to build some muscle, I like more reps for the detailing, the conditioning, the separation of the muscles, that helps a lot. So I just get like the two philosophies I put together, and I do my training. I try to learn from everybody and see what they're doing. By the way, I just watched Milo's podcast, in which you were telling, I mean, your guys' podcast, you were there too, Chris. And Milos gave an advice saying how to train quads, to do the leg extensions, the very slow concentric, holding 10, holding 9, holding 8, go to hex squats. And I've been doing that too. I just
I
love learning.
promise you that is a nightmare. Okay, if you watch, I had on my, there was Sergio Oliva Jr. and Manuel Romero, and I put them together. So we did the leg extensions first, right? Going into the freeway squats, which I gave them. Okay, now you can use the power, and then finishing with the hack squats that super slow. And super slow, I know that everybody goes with the slower eccentrics. No. It's biggest nightmare, and the best thing that I would swear by is a slow concentrics on a hack squats without locking the knees, passing the parallel, initiating from squeeze the muscle rather than push it. I mean, and even though a lot of experts always disagree with me and tell me, don't do this, I make them put the weight on the ball of the foot and raise the heels just off the platform. I mean, it's an instant switch to the quads from you push from the whole foot. And this is what I did there. And then every set you do progressively heavier or progressively prolong, time and attention. Holy shit. But I don't even remember saying this. Yeah. But one day, if I train you, I'll put you through that kind of thing.
It's funny.
I know you're game.
Milos, like when people explode out of the hole, it's like if I do that, all the pressure comes to my hips. It's like I'll drive with my hips and it's off my quads. If I slow the concentric down, I can feel the quads more. Same thing with like benching. It's like if I'm pressing, squeezing, now my pecs are engaging. If I'm doing this, it's like I feel it everywhere and off the specific area I'm trying to target. Natalia, do you train body parts twice per week? Do you do a push-pull legs, one body part per week?
I focus on one body part per week, except legs. I do legs twice. One of the days I focus more on quads, the other one glutes and hamstrings. And for the beginning of the year, I was doing quads 3 times a week. There was a lot. It was kind of overtraining, but purposely, because I needed to have better outer sweeps. And I just noticed more frequency was helping. I was getting more blood flow. The quads were feeling like bigger, larger, like I could get the blood flow to the area. And I felt literally the fascia of my quads stretching out. So I'm like, okay, I think it's working. So I did that for a good 4 months. And then I went back down to twice a week. And that's just because of the feedback that I got from the judges last year. They want more outer sweep on my quads. They want to see more volume from the back as well. So I work a lot on that. But usually I do just like the old days, just like the old school bodybuilders used to do, one body part. And I only train once. I know a lot of you guys used to train twice, but
yeah. I mean, used to. Sorry to interrupt you. Because now back and forth. Today, I had the old school podcast with Alcu Gurley. Alcu, and we also talk about how often did you train. But for me, I was a pro bodybuilder, right? And you have it 24 hours a day, and that's back in 90s. There is nothing else to do but put everything, into the training and stimulation. So training once a day or twice a day. It was no brainer, but I understand more is not necessarily better, so you tried 3 times and 2 times, but I like your way of thinking. You don't set your day off. That's what I did with my guys. I wouldn't give you the money to say, this is a plan, but if I need you to take a day off, I would even force you to take a day off because I see it. There was many times, Hidetade Yamagishi back in the day, Sylvia Samuel, and then, when you have that mentality, more is better. I want to, and I've seen Hide completely wasted. And I kick him out of the gym. I don't want you to train. I was there to train, right? But you have to draw the line when you say, okay, I'm not going to get anything out of it, and I can possibly damage it. So why would I? So when you need a day off, even or your clients, right? But you have to be there and see it. I understand, Chris, when they say, I think I need more, or I think I need a day off, So you don't have a tendency to really give them. Because I am after work. If you can work, I want you to work. But every so often you have to pull the volume back. The good thing about you, Natalia, that I'm listening to, you never cheat. You're super precise, and you have right now metabolism that is working for you, because 300, 500 carbs is a breeze, right? And no cardio. So this is blessing, because you can cruise all year, into the Olympia like that. That's wonderful. So you don't have to go. Yes, I find people that get out of the shape, eat big to get big off season. No. You gain too much fat. Now, when you start losing that fat, it's a task to maintain all the muscle. And I've seen back in 90s and early 2000s, guys that always go this and that. Every single year, they're about the same weight or less. They're not improving at all. And when I was doing I competed constantly, and every next contest I have a little bit more and a little bit more. I don't need to gain 50 pounds and then lose 49 or sometimes 51. It makes zero sense. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see you defend your title. I'm you're a huge fan, yeah, and I know that you're going to have a tough competition, right? So Sarah is a formidable opponent, yes, and she gets in a very good condition. I think that your physique is more complete, but that's why I was asking you before. You now said the judges still think you can improve a little bit more sweep, right? So you create a little bit more illusion of the sweep to the thighs.
That was the feedback from 2021 to 2020. So that's what they want.
Yeah.
And New York Pro.
They don't need more.
They haven't said anything that they want more. They just said the symmetry now in the proportion is exactly how it's supposed to be. So I feel like we are there.
Which I think from a perspective standpoint, where in bodybuilding, if people say, hey, you won, that's great, they can come back bigger next year and more shredded and still win. Where in your situation, it's like, don't change anything. Just do that again. You get that nerve-wracking, like, great, now I can't get bigger, even if sometimes by accident it starts to happen, right? That's probably another perspective that people don't even realize sometimes in the female divisions, is where you're trying to fit a perfect silhouette of what that category is defined as, and you can't go too much, you can't go too little. It's like you got to nail the bullseye.
Yeah, that's from a femininity prospect. I love your shape right now, and I don't want you to build more, right? Sarah has a very strong legs, right? And that was her ticket, how she probably beat you 2021. Maybe this is how I see it. So when I have, of course, my athletes, I want them to be the best they can be, but sometimes also who is your competition and one they bring to the table, right? So if you need to improve this area, that area, but listen, I didn't see the score sheets. Did you win convincingly, or there was a few points?
I think there was one judge that voted for Sarah to win, and if I'm not mistaken, there was one judge only who voted for her and got me in second. I don't know.
Well, listen, I have zero doubts you're going to bring even better package next year and continue improving.
Awesome. I promise you that. So that I'm gonna put not only like the work, but also my heart, my soul, my 100% into it, because it means so much more to me, than a title. It's just like the whole thing. It's what I tell everybody. Being a champ, it's not only what you do on stage, but off stage. And I just want to represent this title and teach people and show people what we are, because honestly, I feel that's how I look at it. I'm young, I'm healthy, I have energy, I have passion. Like, the future of the sports depends on us. One day, you guys, Milos, everybody from the 80s, 90s, are not going to be here. So it's in our hands to continue the legacy that you guys created and the leaders created, actually. So it's just like, I feel that I can do a lot of things for the sports, for the industry, and that's what I want to do. Like, I've been doing everything. Literally, I had like 7 trips in 6 weeks just to give back to the community. Just to like teach, just to be in workshops, seminars, learning, teaching. That's just amazing, and I really like doing that. I think that's
You
because
can
that's
see your passion comes out through your pores. I mean,
Yeah.
it's another characteristic thing. I have never seen you ever without a smile. I mean, this is and that's that positive energy that just win you over. Don't ever change. I mean, look at you. The whole hour, she's just smiling and full of energy. It's coming out. God bless you. And I'm sure that you have a lot of followers, and that you're a role model, for Brazilian ladies, the ladies here, right? And you're bringing that feminine, muscular, shapely look that should be presented as a paragon of women's physique. But I must confess, somebody when I said today I'm going to talk to Natalia, Miss Olympia, right? And is jumping in there, you have to define Miss Women's Physique Olympia, okay? So
yes.
it's a little different.
Natalia, it was really awesome having you on. We would love to have you on again at some point. We really would like to have a little more platform for females to get on and discuss, things of their life and their path. But I can tell you, after doing some research and knowing a little bit about you from the past, seeing you and talking to you here, it's a breath of fresh air to have somebody your age with the work ethic that you have, the perspective you had. I mean, 4.0 GPA, exercise science, gut specialist. You're just, it's a breath of fresh air. And I wish the best of luck to you. And I really hope you kill it again next year in the Olympia. Do you have any sponsors or anything you want to mention? Any tags, how do people contact you, anything like that?
Yes, the first thing I want to do is to thank you guys for everything you're doing, because honestly, you guys are keeping the sports alive. So I am just very, very grateful to have people like you doing these podcasts, these interviews, even like Evan Santapani's circle. I'm always there, always like trying to interact with you guys, because the new generation needs you guys, and you doing just like an amazing job. So thank you for that. And don't ever stop, because you inspire me to do more. And that's like just a circle. One inspires the other and keeps going. Anyway, so yes, I'm on Instagram at IFBB Pro Natalia Coelho, my first and last name. And I just want to thank, like everybody who has been supporting me, my family, my friends, everybody, because without them, who are we? The sports needs the fans. Can you imagine going on stage and having no audience, no fans? So everybody's important. We are one big family, one depends of the other. And I am just grateful to have them. And I hope they are grateful to have us as athletes, as ambassadors, because that's what bodybuilding is about.
Awesome. Awesome.
It was wonderful talking to you, Natalia. Like Chris said, we'll have you again. And I hope you nailed it this year, and bring something even special. I loved your routine. Also, we didn't talk about the posing routines. I'm sure you've seen my debates with but
Yeah.
but even for female women's physique, you wanna die to want to show more, to represent yourself and your sport and everything, right? Rather than, okay, let me just work off this routine. It's not going to be judged. You know what I mean? I think if you care for the audience and you represent yourself and your division and the sport of bodybuilding, yeah, you should put such a great effort, and you did. I loved the routine.
Oh, that's the time to show my energy and my passion, like when you're watching the routines, that's when you get like this vibe, this, I don't know, it's just like contagious. When you watch a routine that actually catches your attention, it changes the whole thing. Even though it's not being judged, I'm still like showing the fans what I feel on that stage. So I think it's
Yeah, it should be. You did a great job, and I'm looking forward for the next one.
Awesome.
Right.
All right, Natalia, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Take care. Milos, she was awesome.
Yeah. The bundle of energy, right? It's like, wow.
Energy, the positivity. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, man, there's nobody's going to break her spirit, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if you trust I know that there was a quads issue, maybe that was 2021, and still going into this. Sarah, has a crazy quads. I don't know if you remember, and then crazy hamstring glutes, all this shit. I was watching. Oh, are they gonna give it to her? So I'm glad that they gave it to Natalia, because they don't need her to be any bigger. So you should keep the certain guidelines, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be stressful though to be in a situation where don't get any bigger. Because, sometimes, here we are always striving as bodybuilders to be bigger. And then you get to a point where it's don't get bigger. And then your body probably will get bigger. You know what I mean?
But the worst thing is, don't be so conditioned. Soften up. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, soften up. Soften up.
Seriously.
Don't diet as hard. Don't diet as hard.
I don't want to see striations. Like, striation is there. How can I lose it? Tell me right now, if I have a feathered quads and I walk, I should walk specifically so you don't see the feathers. I mean, Jay Cutler, I was just with him. Remember, he didn't need to do anything, and there was like feathers all over. He's like the only guy that doesn't even have to like really lock, to show it. He's just standing there, like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So
let's knock out these 3 questions that we got from AMA. All right, so I'll ask them. I'll give you my input. You can give me your input. First question: do I need to frequently deload if I feel fine? What do you think?
Okay, so that's exactly what Natalia was now talking. If I feel fine, I don't take a day off. Why on earth? Because I schedule it. Why would you schedule it like this? I mean, I had this whole discussion about this periodization thing because I was with many coaches and all this stuff. And, this is it, accumulation phase and intensification and all this. Really? If I don't need, why would I, put into somebody's concept of, oh, this is good and more than that is too much. Deload. Really? So I tell you, I had a guys, especially I talk about Hirotari Yamagishi, right? One of the guys that when he came in 2006, this funny story that I said it, I don't know if you heard it, but first time he competed with me, he already improved like 11th place in San Francisco before he would never place, but it was 11th place with the good guys on the stage. And there was no social media, so it was just bodybuilding.com and all this getbig.com, right? So posted pictures of Hida and all these people like, no way he's ever going to qualify for Olympia. The genetics, Asian, all this, right? He's not going to do it. So I put it there, knowing his work ethics, because I trained him already. So he's going to make it to the Olympia, right? And Hida come in. Do you know the story?
No, I don't know the story.
So he came to the gym, and that's at that time he didn't speak much English yet. So he goes, and he's very polite. How Japanese people are all classy, and he goes, "Why did you write that?" I said, "What do you mean?" I say, I can never qualify for Mr. Olympia, right? And I had I'm no fake. I'm instant. Get the fuck out. So if you don't believe, right, you can do it. I don't want to train you. And I really, but you don't use F word in Japan. But I remember that moment. And then, he goes like, oh, you know what? Can you ask your sponsor? if you can give me $50,000 bonus if you qualify for 2007 Olympia. And needless to say, he made a call and they agreed. So here's now, I have that offer. I can get 50 grand, but it was also for me challenge. Can I really put his genetics, put enough muscle, and create everything needed to be top 3 in some pro shows to qualify for Olympia? Needless to say, we did it. He qualified. But that was exactly the time. Okay, let's put the step on the gas pedal. And we just went berserk. And so I'm not going to stop until it's needed. I trained him like this. I mentioned his name earlier with Natalia. Periodically, I would kick him out of the gym and say, you need a day off. But there was one training had to be better than another for a full year. So after that experience, right, also, who am I to say now I need to deload? I need to deload. And how long is going to be deload? A few days or a few weeks? So I don't. I really don't. I'm not necessarily all out every time, right?
Yeah.
But I don't purposely go to the gym and say, okay, I'm going to go at my 80% and I'm going to do this and that. And now next week I'm going to do much lighter. I don't.
Yeah, the way I see it, Milos, is very similar to you. It's like there might be a time where I get sick, I get injured, where I have to back off, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a time where my body does need a break, when I'm going to take that break when that time comes, instead of pre-planning it when I might not need it and destroy the momentum I'm having. I do feel like their hypertrophy part of training is different than the performance of an Olympic athlete. Olympic athlete, I get how they might need to deload, right?
Oh, yeah.
But for us, I feel like we could do it and auto-regulate it as we go along. Next question. Could one achieve a bodybuilding physique with just a barbell and plates?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, barbell and plate, listen, and you're looking at one that had no choice but do it. Because in Serbia, okay, Yugoslavia back in time, I didn't know what bodybuilding is. I've seen this one guy in my class. They were disappeared for like a few months, and then came back and it's like, holy shit, he looked completely different. So first time I've seen increased muscle mass on a teenager, right? So what the hell are you doing? And so he's lifting weights. Oh, bodybuilding. Okay. So where? In his garage. Okay. So let me go there. Anyway, so he didn't have a weights. We had to actually put the cement and concrete into the, whatever mold. And then one would be like maybe 15 kilos, the other one would be 16 kilos. And so, but this is all that we had. And then we didn't have a bench. We had just a piece of wood and we put in some bricks. And then you would put that in his hand so you can do the bench press. We didn't have really nothing. And then we would have a horizontal bar so you can do the pull-ups. And so this is my first year of training. And I made a tremendous progress at that time. So, of course, to answer the question, can you? Yes. Can you stimulate every muscle? Yes, you can. Can you do multiple exercises with just barbell and dumbbells? Yes, you can. It's just like how creative you are.
Yeah.
But do you need the cables? Of course. Do you need some machines? Of course.
It's like you can do it. It just puts you at a slight disadvantage where you're going to have to really kind of expand on your exercise IQ and to be able to be creative. And of course, being able to push yourself and really utilize that mind muscle connection. 100%. Jesus, where did it go? Hold on. Last question. What is your, I got my opinion on this one. What is your stance on nootropics? All these nootropics.
Well, listen, back in the day, in the early 90s, we did use like piracetam, modafinil, and stuff like that. So anything from mental performance, cognitive function, all that stuff. And there was used quite a bit, later on was put in a doping, right? If it can improve your focus, and mental state, should you use it? So for me, it was enhancement. I like it. I forgot exactly the brand name, but there was piracetam. It was very, very popular, and modafinil. But when you just think about there's all caffeine would be
Yeah.
nootropics by definition, that everybody does. L-theanine would be, the nootropics. Supplements like Bacopa and whatever else. I'm not longer that much into it. I used it back in the day, and I thought it'd make a difference. Nowadays, you see me probably, now it's late. I had my big old cup of Serbian coffee, and that would be it. I don't need anything else.
I'm the same way, Milos. I've never gotten into them. I've tried them a few times. Did I feel a little boost? Sure. Is it something I need on a regular basis? No. I do need my coffee. I do love my coffee. I'm not giving up my coffee.
Never.
That's pretty much how I leave it.
Yeah. You know what? I can't think of that English word. I'm so mad at myself. The barbell that is empty inside.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just know the name of it.
Yeah. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to remember, and then I'm going to text the guy.
Okay.
I needed my piracetam right now. I would probably have a better cognitive function. I would remember.
Yeah, right. Here we are talking about nootropics. We can't remember the team terminology of something we're all picturing. Yeah. Milos, man, it's been a pleasure. What a great podcast. What a gem in the industry there. I was blown away when she said that she was backstage referencing certain people, and other people in her lineup had no idea who they were. And she's young, a female competitor in women's physique, and knows the bodybuilding history more than a lot of bodybuilders and classic physique guys today.
By the way, it just occurred to me, because there's a lot of people in the industry that as nootropics, they use Adderall and Ritalin and these kind of things. And I'll be first one to say it's bad news, and don't do it, because as you know, it creates dependence. And then I had many athletes that were hooked on that. And I don't know if maybe whoever asked that question maybe was going to that direction as well, because I didn't mention it. I don't support it, never will. So
I agree. And that stuff can kill your appetite. Adderall, my gosh. You're not going to be able to eat to grow on that for sure. All right, Milos, man, it's been a pleasure. Signing off. Appreciate everybody for listening. And there concludes another episode of AMA Podcast with Chris and Milos. Until next time.
I learned to own my style, how I got this smile. Conquer fear, got the crown. Can't nobody bring me down. I'm looking good, quite frankly. Tim's a fitted big Yankee. Then I'm cold when I'm out east. I'm top tier, you can't rate me.